Okay, welcome everybody. I'd like to call this General Committee meeting of May 27th to order at 9 a.m. I can confirm we do have quorum, although it doesn't look like it. We have two of our councillors joining us virtually, Councillor Fitzgerald and Councillor Schumacher. Welcome to both of you, and we're also thrilled, Councillor Fitzgerald, that you're joining us here today, and you look healthy. That's
Thank you.
great.
I feel healthy.
Good. All right. And with that, I am going, we have regrets from Councillors Cloutier and Councillor Stone. So with that, Councillor Morrison, would you mind reading the land acknowledgement, please?
Yes, Mayor Alcock, thank you. I would like to respectfully acknowledge that we are on the traditional territory of the Anishinaabe under the terms of the Robinson-Huron Treaty Number 61 of 1850 and the Williams Treaties of 1923. We commit to acknowledge, learn, educate, create opportunity, honor sacred places, and take actions towards real truth and reconciliation in support of our commitment to walking the path together in respect, peace, and harmony for future generations.
Thank you, Councillor Morrison. Are there any disclosures of pecuniary interest? Okay, seeing none. We do have two deputations today, and starting with Dan Watson is here from the Huntsville Festival of the Arts to talk about the exemption to the exotic pet bylaw. And here you are. So Dan, would you mind coming forward, please? Thank you.
Is that right? Okay. Thanks for having me here. Yes, so as you mentioned, I'm here today. The HFA has booked a show this summer called Dogs Do Magic, and it's coming to the Algonquin Theatre on July 4th. It's a family-friendly musical or magic theatrical show, and it involves dogs. So we were informed by bylaw that this would be termed a circus, and that's exempt because of the bylaw as it is. So I'm here to ask today if you would, if council would grant an exemption to this bylaw so that we can put on the show at the Algonquin Theatre on July 4th. So just in terms of I guess the case I would make is that in terms of terming it a circus, I think is probably not completely what this show is. It's a theatrical magic show. It's not, Barnum and Bailey with tigers and lions. They're dogs doing, showing off their amazing intelligence, their amazing agility, their amazing speed, and it's combined with magic. So there are around 15 to 20 dogs in the show. There are 8 performers. All the dogs are owned by the performers themselves, so they train, they live with them, they're domesticated animals, so they work together. The show itself has been put together by a gentleman named Brian O'Connor, who has used to run Canine Central and has helped create Super Dogs, which is a show that goes to all over the place, carnival, or Super Dogs. So they're behind it, and this show in particular has played in a number of different theaters similar to the Algonquin Theatre, ones that are run by municipalities. So the Rose in Brampton. He sent me 25 different theaters that they've been in, and I think they're actually going to be in Gravenhurst Opera House as well. So this has not been something that they've come across in the past, and there's been never any issues around the show. So as I say, it's a family-friendly show. So I'm hoping that you guys will grant the exemption so that we can bring the show here and people can enjoy it.
Dan, thank you for coming, and you can appreciate when we originally adopted the exotic pets bylaw, it was because of things like circuses and all of that stuff. And so sorry that your show got captured. It got captured, but we have to make sure your dogs are happy dogs.
Yeah, fair enough.
So that's fun.
And through you, to be honest with you, I'm happy to come and talk about the show.
Yeah, I know. It's great. It's good publicity.
It's great. Yeah.
Excellent. That's wonderful.
So,
Council, any questions? Councillor Morrison.
Thank you, Mayor Alcock, through Dan. Yeah, this is awesome. I just wanted to point out, because when you talk about animals, people always care about how they're cared for.
Mm-hmm.
I've been to the Super Dogs show at the CNE with my kids. You can tell that these dogs are well cared for, well loved. It's each individual owner with their own dog.
Yeah.
And so nobody should be concerned about that. It's pretty obvious that the dogs are good care for sure.
And I should have mentioned they did specify that no animals are owned by the company itself. They're all with the
Owned with-
performers.
Yeah, which
So,
is really important. That's great. I'm going to Deputy Mayor Armour and followed by Councillor Clark.
Thank you, Worship. Very quickly, Simon Cowell on American Got Talent loves dogs. He's always promoting it, and some of them almost go through to win the whole show. So I can support this 100%. Thanks, Dan.
Thanks.
Councillor Clark.
Thanks, Mayor Alcock. I was just going to say a lot of what goes on in this room feels like a circus at times. And there's no exemption required here, so I don't have any problem with an exemption for your show.
Well, I think that's probably a good place.
Great.
Looks like, and I don't think either of our virtual council, they're both good. So, and that's it.
Great.
I think you get a feeling,
Right.
know,
Yeah, I know you
where
guys
this
have
is
to
going to
discuss,
go.
but thank you
And
very
so we
much,
have
yeah.
a motion at the end of
Absolutely. Yeah.
Okay, great. Thanks, Dan. All right. So we're going to move to our second deputation. We have Sharon McKenzie, Elizabeth Stokes, and Katrina Chirio. And I think Lucille just arrived. You have the whole, so Lucille, you're sitting back there. And Katrina, I think I screwed up your last name. So, yeah, sorry. Yeah, thank you. Sorry. Yeah. Yeah, well, I try not to do that, so. All right, and you're here to talk about, give us an update on what all of this stuff the Huntsville and Area Historical Society has been doing for the town of Huntsville. So, over to you.
Thank you. I'm just making sure this is on. Thank you, Mayor Alcock and members of council. We're glad to be here. Yeah, we wanted to share how we've streamlined our properties of interest list recently to help our town staff prioritize built heritage, and then propose how we can work together, hopefully, to support our local heritage property owners as a team. So as a quick update of our recent achievements, thanks to our 2025 summer student, we've digitized a massive volume of local heritage records. This has enabled us to drastically refine our properties of interest list. As you know, it was at around 250 properties. And with the summer student and Sharon's work, and Liz, I guess, too, as well, we've reduced that to 60 properties, which are now in a list with the planning department. This is then due in part to Bill 23, the clock of having the removal from the list as of January 1st, 2027. So time is of the essence. These undesignated properties will fall off at that point. Council should also be really proud of the fact that we've added collaboratively 2 new properties to our designated list. So now we're up to 14. Medill Church and New Home Church are the most recent additions. And so we recently held an information session in March. We sent a letter to the 60 property owners of this new list, and about 20% of them attended the meeting, which is a really great turnout. And at the end of the meeting, at least 10 at this point, have stepped up wanting to have their properties designated officially. So after that meeting, that showed us that there's a lot of great interest from property owners themselves in maintaining the built heritage of our town, which is really promising. So as next steps, we wanted to respond. We got a lot of great feedback from our property owners saying that they want to protect their buildings, and they feel, though, that incentives are essential to them to maintain the architectural features that do exist on their properties. We heard from specific, anecdotal stories from 3 people who have heritage features kind of sitting on their property, but they don't have the funds right now to maintain them or restore them. One example was a schoolhouse, the one on Canal Road. He said he has the old bell house that would sit on top of it. It's kind of in his yard, and he's just he can't make that a priority right now, but he was one of the first people to say he's willing to designate. So even without the incentive. So apart from those who did come forward right away, owners are very likely to formally designate if offered these incentives. So there was a large group of people who said, we are ready, we are on board, but there are a few things in order to maintain the heritage features that would be preserved, we will need some sort of assistance in maintaining them. And they're also very interested in the information that was digitized about their properties to help restore the original features that remained. There was somebody who reached out to us that wants to redo their deck on their house, and they were asking for pictures and plans from their property in the past so that they can restore it to its original aesthetic. So we have a lot of backing from the community. It's not isolated. We have the BIA, business owners as well, not just property owners, but the owners of the businesses are really on board with this. And so we feel that our new streamlined list is a crucial interim tool that the building and planning department will be able to identify these special properties before they're formally designated. So it's kind of like the list will act as like the just kind of the alert that these properties, even if they haven't been designated yet, that they're still of great importance. So our ask today of council, we ask that the updated lists get accepted. They have been streamlined into 3 lists, the 250 properties. The first is our officially designated, which are the 14 that have bylaws written for them. The other list is listed, which are the ones that are future designated properties. So properties that Sharon, with her architectural background, has deemed contained enough, and Liz, sorry, that contain enough features that they could be designated once the property owner says yes. And then the rest have been put into a heritage collection. These will stay on the GIS platform in the town. We will include them in the walking tour. They're properties that maybe the building doesn't exist anymore, or any of the heritage features have been lost, but they are still important to the history of our town. The second is that we help make sure that town planning is aware of these lists when they're making some decisions regarding demolition or renovations. We did bring this a few years ago, I think, to the town, just to say that we would be happy to take pictures, even if something is slated to be demolished, just so that we can retain or remember, preserve the legacy that was left behind. And yeah, and then we were hoping to ask also to incentivize the heritage home ownership. This can be in the form of a tax relief, grants, or awards. And then partner with us in hosting the scan data from our digitization, and consider a future heritage committee to help sustain the momentum that's been going with all this designation. Yeah, so this is some examples of the digitized materials that a summer student digitized. And we chose the town hall because we're in the town hall today, but this kind of information exists for many of the properties in our town, the heritage properties, which is really amazing. So we have letters, we have photographs, we have newspaper articles, we have anecdotal stories from people in the town, so lots of different information. And we wanted you to check out the transformation of 38 Main Street East in this slide, and to show that it isn't just about nostalgia when we're talking about preserving and restoring our built heritage. It's economic development. It's because good restoration drives downtown foot traffic, it boosts tourism, and it raises our property values. And Wolfco has done a beautiful job of restoring their building, but keeping the heritage aspects of it. And we're really proud of the work that they did. And a beautiful restoration shouldn't rely, though, just on luck, and we need a structured program that makes this standard across the town. So Music on Main, 7 Main West is a great example of one of the oldest buildings in our town that survived the fire. And it's not yet designated, but you can see that it requires a little more maintenance to maintain its heritage value because it's wood. So we really like to help those people out. This is just what the list looks like if you haven't seen it before with our 60 properties on it. Okay, so the the 4 incentives that we're proposing is the 40% off municipal taxes. The building must be designated heritage to receive this benefit. So right now there are only 14. The owners must reapply annually, and they have to maintain the property standards to keep their tax benefit. The other one is a heritage restoration grant. Again, it would be up to 50% off of $7,500 to designated properties. And those two are both taken from other municipalities in Muskoka. So they are existing right now, and Lake of Bays and Gravenhurst does the restoration grant. We were also hoping to change the CIP language or update it to include heritage specifically. So when people on the main street are applying for that funding, that it would include if they're maintaining heritage features that are specific to their building. And then finally, we were hoping to instill a Built Heritage Award, maybe a grant and plaque program in recognition of other buildings that aren't designated heritage, but are still upstanding or maintaining and keeping their upstanding heritage condition, which a lot of people are doing in our community. And so we want to try and recognize that as well. So in conclusion, homeowners, they want to designate. The incentives are the missing link, we feel like, and that's the feedback we heard directly from them. Our streamlined lists and designation pages gives us the town the tools they need to prevent these historical losses before the Bill 23 deadline. And by accepting the lists and exploring the incentives, the council can protect our town's charm for generations to come. Thank you.
Amazing. And you still have 48 seconds left.
I was like, last time I
Got
spoke
it.
so fast, and I was like, I have to
No,
slow
it was
down.
perfect. Honestly, Katrina, it was great. Oh no, that was great. And you followed the slide deck beautifully, and it was great. I just before I turn it over to council, I want to say thank you to the society for all of the work you're doing. It's amazing, amazing. And we're very fortunate that you're out there doing it, including hosting meetings to find, potential people who want to designate. So that's, and also going from 250 to 60, a lot of work in that. I know, I can't even imagine. And just very quickly, to me, when I look at the list of asks, there are a couple I feel like I thought we were doing it, but if we're not, we should be. And certainly it feels like these are pretty simple asks, and I appreciate that as well. So before I ask any of my questions, I'm going to ask council if there are questions. Yes, Councillor Morrison.
Thank you, Mayor Alcock, and through you, and I ditto to the comments about all the hard work. I know that you guys have put so much into it. I guess the question is on the tax abatement. I think Lake Bays is doing something like that. Are there other regions doing it? And is there any provincial allowances? Is the province helping at all with stuff like that to help municipalities give these rebates?
Yeah, well, from our research previously, the district matches that, whatever the tax incentive was. That was, I'm not sure the last time that was updated. I don't know about the province, but I'm wondering about grants, like being able to apply for grants to help subsidize that I don't know if the town can do that. That would be a good question to ask. It is nice that it's only for designated properties. It's not a ton of people, but yeah, it's a good question.
Councillor Fitzgerald.
Thanks, Your Worship. I'm working off 3 screens here, so it's hard to get the mouse to go around to where it says speak. Thank you for your presentation. I really appreciate it. I know how much effort has gone into this, and I think it's critical that we keep doing the work you're doing. I love the fact that we're considering tax incentives, and I like the idea of district and municipal rebates for maintenance on the designated properties. I think the list is honed down to something that's very reasonable, and I'm excited that people are interested in pursuing this. So fantastic job. Keep up the great work, and I look forward to where we end up with this.
Okay, thank you for that. I'm going to Deputy Mayor Armour, followed by Councillor Clark.
Thank you, Your Worship. I do have a couple, but we'll just stay with one. So right now with, how does it work with transfer of property when someone sells the piece of property? Do you think it's going to affect the price of the property? Is it going to increase the property, or just transfer with the property and carry on down the road?
It actually transfers with the property because the town will put in place a bylaw that designates the property, and it does transfer with. The home that I live in was designated at one point. it was taken off, and then it is going back on. I think the biggest fear that people have is they feel that if a property is designated, then they can't do anything to their house. And that's actually no, it's a fallacy. It's one of those things I think is a little bit more of a public awareness, but I do think the pride that people are taking in their properties sort of goes over and above the concerns of, is it going to affect?
Thank you for that.
Yeah, thanks you for that. I assumed it probably would transfer over. So how is Bill 23 affecting the timelines for the process of heritage property designation?
Right now we have that 250 properties or whatever it's sitting at 200 they're protected from demolition and they're on an of interest list. And so what would happen in the past is a municipality would kind of put properties on that list as they were deemed important. And over the course of 30, 40, 50 years, as owners decided to designate or townships were able to, they would kind of pull from that list. And that protection is just for demolition. So as what the provincial government is hoping is to build homes faster, so they are, if these homes are not in the process of being designated as of the deadline, then they fall off of that protection from demolition list, which means, again, technically a developer could come in and then take the property. And then those properties that were on the list cannot be put back on for 5 years. So they've now created a window where they can't be, unless they're being designated. And we were looking actually this morning at the wording of the Ontario Heritage Act, some of the changes. And these properties have been issued a notice of intention to designate to be protected from demolition. And we're still trying to figure out the specifics around that, because all of these 60 property owners have been notified by the town that their properties are exceptional and of heritage value. And we hope that is kind of counting as an intention to designate, but we don't have any intention to designate without property owners' permission. So, which is why we had the meeting to kind of get the interest, and we were really happy with the feedback we got, like that the people were interested. But yeah, that's the piece where we're kind of worried about somebody, even look at our properties downtown, like the Wilgris isn't protected. And so it's such a fabulous, beautiful building, and it is on the list of do not demolish, but after January, it would not be. So
One of the other things that I just want to add to that is the original list that is in place, and I believe the number on that was 214. When we started going through it, we realized that a lot of the heritage buildings in Port Sydney, in Utterson, were actually not on the list because that list was compiled years ago by LACAC. So those properties got missed. So some of those are now on this list. So we've actually tried to really clarify what we feel is important and really shows our history.
And what's interesting is if a property wasn't on the list and was just put on the of interest list, it's fine. So if it wasn't on and it's on the of interest, it's safe. But if it was on and it's not designated, it's off. Yeah. It's kind of this weird,
Councillor Clark.
Thanks, Mayor Alcock. Just two, I guess, administrative questions. So who's going to review the applications yearly for the designated properties? And is there going to be a fee associated with that?
I was going to ask, unless you want to respond to that, I was going to ask our acting CAO, Kirsten Maxwell, to provide some feedback on a number of the items that you've raised.
Thank you. If council, the next term of council determines that they want to offer a heritage tax relief or a heritage incentive, there's two different ways you can do it. And I think I brought a report last year about what that looks like. But ultimately, if the municipality wants to protect the heritage values of a property long term, you really need to register an easement on the property. And then that easement transfers with the ownership as well and would be binding each owner, each future owner to that tax relief because they also have been provided with, because they're providing this easement. So it's something that we would have to really consider because at this time, of course, we don't have any resources other than myself allocated to heritage matters when we're talking about built heritage. So it's something that we can definitely discuss with the new term of council because of course the budget is set for this year, so we can't make any budgetary changes right now. The in regards to the list, the 214 properties that are on the officially accepted list by council will cease to be on that list as of January 1st. As Katrina mentioned. And so at this time, the shortened list is fabulous. And building and planning absolutely can reference it when we're getting applications in. My hesitation to do anything official with that list is that it's going to die January 1st regardless. So those new properties that weren't on it before will then all have to fall off on January 1st if council decides to formally accept them as of an interest list. Under the Act, there's very strict limitations, and with the notice of intent to designate, that is the official notice of intent that council provides to a property owner, and then there's 45 days for them to file an objection, and it starts that whole official process under the Act. So it's very awkward, to say the least, because the province is adamant that they need to have these heritage protections not in place in order to increase housing, but of course, in our context, that's not the same issue at all.
Can I ask, if I may, just to follow up on that? So I'm a little, I don't know why, but I'm a little confused. So we're saying that will happen automatically in January anyway, but we have this proposal that we know that there's support for a number of properties who are interested in designation. So what do we do with that?
So properties that are interested in designating, it's ultimately, as Katrina mentioned, the list is the only protections offered through the list are to prevent demolition for up to 60 days. Council has an opportunity to say, no, we are refusing demolition of this property because we're designating it.
Right.
And I don't believe that council would ever actually be in the position where they would refuse a demolition permit because of it. However, that's the only protection with that list. There is nothing to say that a property that was on the list that falls off on January 1st, a future owner or the current owner can't say, I would like my property designated. There's absolutely nothing that prevents that. Any property can be designated if a property owner wants to initiate it. That's what the list is. It's important that we have the lists and that we can reference them for all of our building and planning applications, absolutely.
Perfect. Okay, that's great. And you're saying we're doing that and can do that now?
Yeah,
as
it's
per
just
the
that
request.
formal of interest
Yes,
list that
yeah.
we can't change
Gotcha.
currently because it doesn't really
Yeah.
help anything, but the lists as they stand with the 3 buckets and categories, absolutely, we're good with that.
That's great. Okay, that's great. Thank you. I noticed Councillor Schumacher has her hand up.
Yeah, so I guess off of that, a question and more a comment. But so yeah, like I'm looking at the list and I see 93 Boddings Road with St. Mary's, which of course we now have the cemetery piece, but do not have the church. They're looking to sell. So at this point, council might have the right of way to say you can't demolish. We have the 60 days as Kirsten said, but chances are I know that the province is pushing for renovation of, say, old churches and that kind of thing. So I guess is that something that, is probably the possibility for that property? I don't know who can answer that.
I am going to ask, I am asking Director Maxwell.
Thank you. I can note that the letters of inviting people to the open house that was held in March, talking about those specific properties being of interest, the Boddings Road was one of them. And I did receive notice from the synod that they have absolutely no interest in designating any of their properties. Because I always thought that churches would be great candidates for designation because they are cultural hubs and everything, especially when they're interesting, like the one over here. And yeah, they have absolutely no interest, and they're refusing any discussions about it. So
I'm kind of sad.
But that actually, and excuse me,
Yep.
is the church itself saying, like the diocese is saying, we have no interest. The second they sell the property,
Mhm.
then it's up to the new owner if they would like it designated or
Right.
not.
Right. Fair enough.
Okay.
And we've been through that once. And thankfully, it was a
just
wonderful.
a comment,
Yeah.
sorry.
Yeah,
and
sorry,
then my
Councillor
comment was
Schmuck.
just all the great work you guys do. I know Katrina and I had a conversation there last week because it is Huntsville and area. So I was happy to hear that there are some conversations around the outlying areas. As you guys know, I'm a huge fan of our community halls. Not that I want them designated because I know there's a hole, but I do appreciate the history. The Utterson Hall is going to be 150 years coming up in 2028. So working on some stuff to recognize the history outside of Huntsville in general too. And I mean, if you've been in that Asphodel Hall, it still kind of keeps its charm. And then the Stisted Fall Fair building and property, there is just some really neat outlying areas that I think are really pivotal to still the history of Huntsville and outlying area.
Totally agree. Thank you for raising that. Councillor Renwick.
Thank you, Your Worship, and through you, thank you, ladies, for coming and for explaining. Let me just backtrack. I've been on the, not officially on the board, but I've been with the board for a number of years. And for me, watching and listening to the history of our community has been unbelievable. And the amount of work that this committee has done, again, the mayor has acknowledged that, but I just want to say it as well, reiterate it, that the amount of work that went into this project is unbelievable. The fact that the things that you're asking for, there are two things that I think, if not, it probably won't happen within this council year, but let's say next year, the awards. And I think there were awards that were plaques that were put on buildings that are downtown. And that was something that happened a number of years ago, I believe when Terry Suter was here. So there are certain plaques that are on the buildings. The other thing that I think, and Katrina, you mentioned it, was the CIP. And I think the CIP language, putting in a component of heritage within the CIP. The CIP right now is really designated for the downtown area, but I think it's something that could also be extended beyond that. So I think that's an easy win as well. I attended the evening when the 20% of the people that got the letters, and they were a very very open. They were listening, and the slides that you had on all the the information that was there, people are engaged. They were very, very interested. And I think there are so many people in our community that love the history of this town, and we read about it all the time, the walking tour that we have. So thank you for the work that you're doing. And I think, as the mayor said, it may not be this term of council that does it, but I think for the next term, we used to have a heritage committee. If we can get funding, perhaps we can do something with it. And again, other communities like Lake of Bays have the incentive program, so it's not something that we can't do. So thank you for the work that you're doing. So no questions, more of a comment. But thank you.
Thank you for that, Councillor Renwick. I think you've summed up quite beautifully all of the possible next steps. And on the CIP language, I feel like, yes, I think most of this rests with the next council. I would love to be able to say, yes, we're going to do this and that, but there you go. But CIP language is something that maybe we could start working on, because I don't see that as a huge undertaking. So let's see where we can go. All right, I think we've asked our all the questions have been asked. Thank you. All right. So we are moving along to divisional reports, starting with operations and protective services, and I am going to chair that part of our meeting, and starting with the presentation on the changes to the fire code. And we've got Grant and Chris here with us to speak to that. Welcome, gentlemen.
Good morning. Good morning, Mayor. Thank you for having us, Council, and we look forward to giving this presentation here shortly. My name is Grant Murchison. I'm a fire prevention officer with the Huntsville Fire Department. I'm joined here with Chris Nagy, our chief building official, who has been a great partner for the fire department in ensuring that our buildings are safe from fire to protect not only the people that live here, who visit, as well as our firefighters. And we're here today to talk about some of the recent changes to the fire code, which came into effect January 1st, and will impact both business owners and property owners within our town. We'll first talk briefly about the history of the fire code, and then we're going to really focus on the retrofit requirements to boarding, lodging, and rooming houses, followed by apartment buildings, residential duplexes, and then we're going to briefly talk about why we need to be concerned about these code changes and what type of enforced measures we'll have to take collaboratively between building and fire. The fire code is approaching its 50th anniversary. We've only had it for a little bit under than 50 years. It is a regulation made under the Fire Protection and Prevention Act, and it is provincial, exception to the provincial offenses. In contraventions of the code can be prosecuted under the Provincial Offences Act. It was first introduced in 1981, and then we began to see the retrofit requirements come into effect. And these came into effect after a series of fatal fires within the province of Ontario. In 1983, they required places of assembly and boarding houses to make upgrades to existing buildings to make them safer. 1992 followed up with apartment buildings in different ways to make them safer, residential duplexes, and then in 1998, we began to see the first requirements for smoke alarms in Ontario. And then in 2006, we have smoke alarms in every story, and as we know, that's progressed to every room now under the building code. The fire code that we currently work under was introduced first in 2007, and although it has received updates and changes, revisions, it is still the same code we use today on January 1, 2026, albeit with some new requirements. When we talk about retrofit, we're referring to taking existing buildings that have existed in our community for any number of years and bringing them up to an acceptable level of safety to protect the people that live there, work there, stay there, and the responders who might have to go there in case of a fire. And when we refer to an acceptable level of safety, we're not talking about bringing them up into a level of safety that the building code would expect as of today. We're bringing them up to the 1980s and early 1990s level of safety. And what that means is there's very little consideration for accessibility. It can be accepted to have exits, which wouldn't be acceptable today for people with mobility issues. There's no visual warning devices for people that have hearing impairments. And it only focuses on containing a fire, providing basic means of egress, detecting fire and warning people as early as possible, and fire suppression through the use of sprinklers. Some of the changes that are applicable to a boarding, lodging, and rooming house, and again, what's remained unchanged is that we're bringing up a boarding, lodging, and rooming house from what it was built as in, say, the 1970s, 1960s to the 1986 level of safety. Some very basic changes, mostly pertaining to sprinkler requirements. Before, it was acceptable for sprinklers just to be present in the building and spaced evenly, essentially. And now there's a requirement to have adequate water supply. Previous furnishings, such as wallpapers, carpets, might have been acceptable, and now those will have to be revisited to see if they constitute a hazard. And previously, smoke alarms were only required in hallways. We now have to go back and have owners of these buildings install smoke alarms in each bedroom to protect the occupants. Apartment buildings, again, we're going back to the 1990 Ontario Building Code. So any apartment building up to 6 stories, the goal with the retrofit is to ensure that it has just those basic requirements that would have been present in the 1990 Building Code, but are very, very basic. And it also allows some boarding, lodging, and rooming houses to be treated as apartment buildings if the occupant load is under 4 people. This is the most substantial change and is going to impact the most members of our community. Residential duplexes, we're trying to bring them up to the 1994 level of safety. And previously, the fire code only applied to a residential duplex that existed legally in 1994. So anything that existed and without a building permit after 1994, the procedure previously was for the fire department to refer the matter to the building department for follow-up under that measure. The province has since allowed the fire department now and requires that all duplexes, regardless of when they were built or legally existing, if they're less than 3 stories, less than 600 meters in building area, and have one residential unit above another, or 2 units that are side by side and share a common means of escape, to meet the Ontario Fire Code retrofit requirements. There is some breaks for building owners. Before, we were required to have an electrical safety agency inspection of all duplexes. That's now at the discretion of the fire chief. And before, hardwired alarms were required. Now they can be wirelessly interconnected.
So I'll take over at this point. So, why are we bringing it to this table? Really, from a staffing standpoint, why do we have concerns? So, one of the key things is any fire order that is written, it actually supersedes building code requirements. So, i.e., if Grant goes in preemptive of the building department and it's a building that is established illegally, that order could actually solidify it as legal, and it supersedes our CPP and precinct requirements under planning. So as Grant has indicated, compliance with these orders are at a lower safety requirement than today's building code. And that said, within the within Huntsville Fire Building and Bylaw, we do work cohesively in our relationships and dealing with these matters. To ensure that we're giving the best residents of Huntsville the proper occupancy and construction, building which meets the intended legislation found within the Huntsville Building Code, as well as the Fire Code and municipal bylaws, we have brought forward some measures of enforcement. So can we go to the next? So as Grant has alluded to, fire orders are issued to ensure a minimum life safety standard is being provided to the occupants of the building. The solutions we are bringing forward will ensure that the spirit of this standard will be enforced. Staff plan to use proactive tools such as orders under the building code for work that has been done without a building permit, or property standards orders where existing buildings are not maintained to the minimal municipal standards, in addition to fire orders. This will ensure where work that has been completed without building permits or has not been historically located on the property, staff will be able to subject the property to an order under the building code and therefore a higher safety standard to those individuals. In these situations, the fire department will be able to order any non-compliant life safety devices such as non-working smoke alarms or expired fire extinguishers on the property owner directly. These orders would not affect the use of the building and therefore would not influence non-compliance under the applicable law. If through a desktop review it is noted that the building is deemed to be a legal multi-residential building, the fire department will deal with the property directly, unless there are some concerns that the building department representative is required to review. Upon issuance of any orders, the property owner will be required to complete any work under a building permit. I would also like to note that these situations are typically brought to the municipality through the occupants of the building or through the sale of a building. However, through this code update, staff will be working more proactively on enforcement approach. With that, we're happy to answer any questions.
Thank you, gentlemen. And before I turn it over to committee, I'm sure there will be a lot of questions. I appreciate the update on this. On your slide, why should we be concerned? It says applicable law requirements such as CPP are exempt if it complying. Is that exempt?
Exempt.
Yeah, okay, sorry, I just wanted to clarify because it kind of, Yeah, all right. Thank you. I'm going to ask committee if there are, yes, Deputy Mayor Armour.
Thank you, Chair. Through you, how do you look at, I would imagine you have a huge plan in place right now to educate the people on the changes, you know, the things like smoke alarms in every bedroom and stuff like that. How do you plan on getting that information out to people?
So if I can kind of take that approach, right now we've had a few complaints, obviously, that have sparked this issue, right? So internally, you know, we're kind of teaming on these issues and going out not only fire but also building and bylaw in these situations, and honing in directly and you know, kind of that first call is more of a warning aspect as to, hey, these are the new expectations and everything like that. I will let Grant speak to their communications out to the general public, because the fire department does a great job of, you know, videos and everything like that, right? So
Through you, Mayor, to Deputy Mayor Armour. And just to clarify, the smoke alarm in every bedroom will be required for the boarding, lodge, and rooming houses, although it is required for new construction single-family dwellings. In terms of our education efforts, we do have lists of many of these buildings that are known to us because they may have been previously retrofitted. And the approach that we're taking to educate these owners is contacting them directly to inform them there has been changes, as opposed to a very public form of it, because it could cause confusion within the community, thinking perhaps a building that they own is subject to retrofit when it isn't, for many possible reasons. And we've have very great partners with some different property managers for the larger buildings, and we have already been in discussions with them, not only about the retrofit requirements, but also some of the maintenance requirements that are now required in buildings.
So it's ongoing, in essence. It continues and you're building it. Councillor Clark.
Thanks, Mayor Alcock. Thanks for the report, guys. I can see these changes and enforcement having some pretty widespread ramifications. I think there's many properties that would fall under these changes. I can think of quite a few. So it brings up a concern that by enforcement that we're going to be impacting a large number of rentals and people's ability to rent those units if the owners aren't willing to make changes. So that's a concern I would have. Sounds like we don't have a choice, but the big concern would be that those owners just take those properties completely out of the rental market.
That's a fantastic question. I am curious if we've given thought to that and how. Would either of you like to tackle it?
Through you, Mayor, to Councillor, thank you for the question. It is something that we do consider a lot, and when we go through the code enforcement, we always practice education first, and then applying the least amount of enforcement tools to achieve that compliance. And the one tool that we use a lot is what's called the inspection order, and that has rights of appeals for property owners. So when we find contraventions of the fire code in these buildings, we write out the exact code reference, the reason of what's wrong, and how to fix it. And the property owner has the right to appeal that with the provincial fire marshal, and they can also appeal it at the much higher level with the Fire Safety Commission. They can request extensions of time, and they can also request permission to conduct what's called a life safety study, where they get an architect or an engineer involved, and they can propose a way to make the building safe in a time frame that's acceptable for them based on their budget, their needs, to the chief fire official who can approve it. So even though our order might say it must be done in 90 days, they could turn and say, we're going to get an architect involved, we're going to do this the right way, but it's going to take longer. And that is a very positive solution we found. And we have seen some incredible cost savings for property owners who do the life safety study through the architect or engineer.
That's great. It sounds, there's an alternative approach, and extending it over a period of time, that seems quite positive. Yes, Chris.
sorry, if I may add to that.
Yeah.
One of the things when we're seeing building permits come in and, you know, change of uses and things like that, we've actually included the fire department through the planning applications and day one kind of highlighted those life safety plans as well. It seems like the home or the property owners are taking that as the best stream to actually get work done. And like Grant alluded to, it extends that time frame to actually get the work. So as early as possible, we're noting what could happen in the future, and that way people can have more of a educated direction on what they want to do with their building. So
Thank you for that. I'm going to Councillor Fitzgerald.
Thank you, Your Worship, and thanks you both for your presentation. I'm pleased the OBC has added smoke detectors and interconnected in bedrooms. And I think we're headed in the right direction. I like the proactiveness of this. Previously, we have had programs where we are helping landowners and individual renters with CO2 and fire detectors. Do we have resources, or can we ask for resources to put those in place to assist in this, so we don't end up with any situations where people are caught in an unsafe manner or landlords are faced with exorbitant costs on replacing all these fire alarms? So what are your thoughts on that?
Thank you, Councillor, through you, Mayor. We were fortunate we did receive a donation of smoke alarms from Enbridge Gas. They're a smoke and carbon monoxide alarm, and they work incredible in a single family dwelling setting. There can be issues when we need to have a duplex or residential duplex because they don't have the interconnected capability. What we do work with landlords quite often. I do have a landlord of a residential duplex who's asked for our assistance, and we'll be conducting an inspection next week. And whenever a landlord comes out to ask us for assistance, we are there to educate them and there to assist them. And it's on the opposite end of things. When it's after a fire or a potentially life dangerous situation, that's where we have to be with more of the enforcement side. So we would definitely encourage any property owners who owns these buildings is to engage in discussions with us, ask us the questions, and we can help them to the best of our ability, whether that's through helping them do the process of a life safety study, or how to access potentially those alarms or things like that.
Thanks for that, Grant.
Great. That's great. Councillor Morrison.
Thank you, Mayor Alcock, and through you. First, a quick comment, then a question. My experience, and I think Councillor Clark would say the same thing, of my years of selling real estate, the fire department's responsiveness and role with landlords has been amazing. Like, we could call for an inspection because we needed it for a sale or to list a property, and there'd be somebody out there immediately, really quickly. And then the turnaround time on giving the landlord the information they needed was always unbelievably fast. And the way the landlords were dealt with was very professional and always, like you said, more of a nurturing and helpful process. So that's been amazing. And on that note, I wonder, on the communication piece, Chris does a lot of good work on this, but maybe getting something directly out to the real estate brokerages. These realtors have direct lines to a vast majority of our town, and some of them have a stable of 5, 6, 7 landlords that they could then get the information out to them directly. So I think it might be a good way to get the news out.
Through you, Mayor. Thank you, Councillor. That's actually a very great idea, and something that I hadn't considered, and it's definitely another avenue for us to help educate people. And then it definitely, as we collaborate with fire and building, it's very important we build collaborations with the community as well. So thank you for that.
Councillor Renwick.
Thank you, Your Worship, and through you, thank you, gentlemen, for coming. I guess just to follow up to what Councillor Morrison just said, and Grant, you mentioned as well that you have a list of all the different properties, and you know many of the boarding homes and the duplexes and that sort of thing. Is there a comprehensive list of all of the properties? Because it sort of sounds like it's up to you to sort of contact them. Is it up to the individual property owners, or not individuals, but the duplexes and the property managers to come to, like, how do they know about it? If you don't speak to them, how does an average, rental owner know that these changes have happened?
Through you, Mayor. Thank you, Councillor. And you're right. In the way the fire code is written, the owner is ultimately responsible for ensuring the compliance. But there is also case law in the past where if the fire department is aware of issues, they do have to help the property owner fix those issues. And what we are trying to do is target the community based off the risks to them, right? So we have limited educational time and bandwidth with the community, and we are trying to fit in where does the education about the duplexes fit in that education plan to address the top risks to the community, and we are trying to fit it in there. And I do believe a targeted approach to specific members of the community who own these duplexes would be the most efficient way to do it. And I think as we find and resolve situations that are dangerous, using positive messaging about how, hey, we worked with these many landlords and now these many buildings are safe, might help also encourage other property owners to come to us and ask for assistance.
A follow-up, because sadly, if they don't know about it and there is an occurrence, that's when we find out that they didn't have the right thing. So you're trying to be proactive to get out to people to talk to them about it, but if something happens within the building, heaven forbid, that's when we find out that they didn't know or they didn't have the proper,
Thank you, Councillor. And you were 100% right. We're talking about people's lives and the things that they value in their life and the safety of those things. And a proactive approach is always better. It's better to not know the fires that we prevented. And many chiefs will say that the best calls are the ones we don't go to.
Chris.
Oh, sorry. If I can also add to that, and one of the main things with the presentation today is the issue with units that we don't know about or were illegally put in is really there wouldn't be a list as to, hey, we know about this one. So this really, this presentation hopefully showcases the, hey, if you come in, we'll work with you to actually get them, up to either the fire code standard if it's an older unit, or to the building code standards, which any building that's 5 years or older actually has a lesser standard that they need to meet. It's not as of today's standard. So like always, we're willing to work with any property owner to make sure that their tenants are safe, and they actually by not having a safe unit or a legal unit, they're opening themselves up to their own litigation if something were to happen, right? So it kind of works both ways. Unfortunately, when a code update in the building code happens, because we are so integrated with the construction industry, we can have a contractors meeting, people come in, get an update. This, because it is associated with the owner, it's not even a group that you can go out. It's kind of a message to all residents of Huntsville, right? So yeah.
Okay, I think we've lost Councillor Fitzgerald. I think. I just noticed. Oh, there he is. No, and he's popped back. Okay.
Biological break.
Okay, all right. You're allowed. Thank you, gentlemen. And that was for information only, and we really appreciate that. I'm sure.
Thank you, Mayor.
Okay. So we are moving to agenda item 6.3.2, and we have Paul Kalea with us to discuss report number fire 2026-2, the forestry skid unit donation. And I do have a motion which I'll read before I turn it over to you, Paul. It's been moved by Deputy Mayor Armour, seconded by Councillor Clark, whereas the Huntsville Fire Department periodically receives donations from the community throughout the year to assist with enhancing the department's equipment. And whereas in 2026, a member of the public would like to donate to the town a piece of equipment to improve the level of response to their community and to assist with the safety of their members. Now, therefore, it is recommended that committee accept the donation for the following equipment to be added to the capital inventory with no provision for future replacement: 1 firefighting skid unit, a portable pump and hose reel, and water holding tank at an approximate value of $10,000. Over to you, sir.
Good morning, and thank you, Mayor, and thank you, Council, for the time this morning. As highlighted in the report there, we have a member of the community that has graciously come forward and has provided the opportunity for us to accept a donation to help enhance our capabilities, specifically in regards to wildland firefighting. As you can imagine, it's some of the most challenging fires that we have to fight strictly because of locations most of the time. There's no hydrants available when you're out in the middle of nowhere. And even though we have static water supply, that can be a challenge for us. And any tool that we can have available to us that makes our job easier or more efficient is an advantage to all of our residents. And we have a member that, according to our policies here, I need to get approval for council to allow us to add this to capital, and that's why I'm here this morning.
Thank you for that update. And again, it's one of those where I think, wow, it seems like a no-brainer to me, but there you go. Councillor Renwick.
Thank you, Your Worship, and thank you, Paul, for coming forward. What a great donation. Lauren, I love the photograph. Always appreciate a photograph of what it looks like as well. You just mentioned that it's being added to our capital, but we're not going to replace it once it dies. And you're not going to come back. I mean, if it's a piece of equipment that we need, why wouldn't we want to replace it?
Thank you for the question, and through you, Mayor. We did consider that, and it's something that we haven't really been able to use yet. We feel that this will be an advantage for us. We had it given to us in the fall of last year, actually, for us to look at and check the condition of it. And so we did have it on one fire that it was an advantage for us because of location. And it was just one of those items that we weren't planning to replace at that 10-year mark, but future administration, if they felt that this was being used on a regular basis, could reassess at that time and then have a look at that. Yeah.
Thank you. Deputy Mayor Armour.
Thank you, Chair. Through you. So is this going to be permanently attached to a vehicle of some sort, or is it going to be something that you pick up and move to different vehicles to get to different areas? Because it's going to be stationed in Port Sydney, so I'm just curious.
Yeah, thank you, Councillor, for that, and through you, Mayor. It has the capability actually to go in a number of different vehicles. So we have a pickup truck in Port Sydney now that doesn't have a cap on it, so it's easy to slide this unit in when required. We are also making a change to our fleet in that what we call Car One, which is the chief's vehicle, he's receiving an update in that vehicle this year. And so this pickup truck will be able to remain down at Station 5. So this skid unit can stay in that during the fire season when we have the no burning bylaw in place. But it will also fit in a side-by-side as well. So at Station 5, we also have a UTV there that, depending on the terrain and location, it is portable enough and can be lifted by two members that it can go out of one and into another. So it is a seasonal piece of equipment that wouldn't necessarily be in an apparatus or a vehicle all year long, but depending on how we choose to have our running order, we could have it.
Follow up? Sure.
Very quickly, I'm just curious, you have $500 down there for maintenance, annual maintenance. I'm thinking, what would it need for maintenance? Just an oil change and change a spark plug? I'm just curious why that number seems a little high for me. That's all.
Yeah, and you're right. It's a spark plug, a filter, some oil, a little bit of labor to do that, and it would get incorporated in our regular maintenance schedule that we use for all of our gas-powered equipment. It has some plumbing pieces to it and hose and things like that we can't account for. Sometimes things go wrong at a fire scene, and if things break, we do have to replace that. It was put a little bit on the high end for that, just to cover any costs, because we don't have a track record with it yet, and that would help offset that.
Final follow-up?
Yeah, and the 10-year aspect of it, it's a Honda pump. Don't they last forever?
It already has 10 years on it, and so 10 years with the fire department would make it 20 years old, but even then.
Okay. Councillor Fitzgerald.
Thank you, Worship, and thank you, Paul, for your report. I guess what I'd like to say first is make sure you thank this individual on behalf of council for their donation, and hopefully you don't have to use it, but if you do, it provides a resource that keeps somebody safe. That's it.
Thank you for saying that, Councillor Fitzgerald.
If I can follow that quickly through you, Mayor. I did speak with the resident on this and asked them if they would like the opportunity to be recognized for this, and they were adamant that they wanted anonymity. So out of respect of the homeowner, that's what we're doing.
You can pass along our appreciation, though.
Yes.
That'd be great. All right, Deputy Mayor.
Thank you. I don't know if you can answer this one. I'm just curious. What did he use it for?
I can answer that. Thank you, and through you, Mayor. He was in environmental studies for years, and it had to do with fire suppression in wildland, and purchased it for that. Ended up never using it, and it sat at his residence in Muskoka. The only time it's ever been run is when he fired it up in the spring to make sure that it worked. So it probably has about 2 hours worth of run time on it. that's it. And then things have changed for him, and he's decided it's in the way. Yeah.
Well, isn't that great?
Yeah.
And also forward-looking. That's great.
Yes.
All right, I don't see any other questions, so I'm calling the question. All those in favor? And that carries unanimously. Thank you very much, Paul. So I am moving to the next item, and that is, we're joined by our chief, Mr. Monahan, Chief Monahan. So regarding report number Fire 2026-3 with respect to waiving training grounds user fees, and I do have a motion, so I'm reading that. It has been moved by Councillor Fitzgerald, seconded by Councillor Morrison, whereas the Muskoka Lakes Fire Department uses the Huntsville Training Grounds for training department members, and whereas the Muskoka Lakes Fire Department wishes to donate a forcible entry training prop to the Huntsville Training Grounds for continued use by Huntsville Fire Department members as well as other training partners. And whereas the Muskoka Lakes Fire Department has certified 2 Huntsville firefighters in kind and has scheduled to certify 6 more firefighters in 2026. Now, therefore, it is recommended that the fee for the Muskoka Lakes Fire Department for the use of the Huntsville Training Grounds be waived for 2026 and 2027, and further that committee accepts the donation for the following equipment to be added to the capital inventory from the Muskoka Lakes Fire Department forcible entry prop to the Huntsville Training Grounds at a value of $8,000, and further that an annual replacement cost of $800 be added to the draft 2027 Mayor's budget to increase capital contributions for fire capital, and additional $500 be included to the draft Mayor's 2027 budget for additional operating expenses relating to the forcible entry prop. Whew. Chief Monahan.
Well, good morning, Mayor and Councillor. Thanks for that. So, yeah, so the Muskoka Lakes generously has offered to donate the forcible entry prop, obviously, to us, and again, generously has trained a number of our members, which would be a huge cost to the municipality should we send them to another regional training center. So I put the report together for you. They hadn't requested it. However, I thought it was a good gesture to allow them to, to maybe waive the fee if council would approve it. So I'm here for any questions, if you have any. I think we did put a picture. So some people were questioning what a forcible entry prop was, but it is a prop that is required for certification of our members. Obviously, as you know, you've heard mandatory certification, but this is one of the props that we would have to borrow or go use, but it's now at our facility.
Great. And as we heard earlier, pictures are wonderful.
Wonderful, yeah.
So, Councillor Renwick.
Thank you, Your Worship. And yes, to you, Gary, that yes, the pictures are always great. Gary, what is the value of the forcible entry door? What would...
So the value came from the Muskoka Lakes chief. So I had requested, what is the value of us, or the value that you're giving us? His number was $8,000. We've never actually gone out and looked at purchasing one before. However, the dollar figure came from the Muskoka chief, Muskoka Lakes chief.
So if I just follow up, so then we don't really know what the replacement value would be, but we are putting $800 into the budget every year in order to replace this if we need to.
That is correct, yes.
Yeah,
Okay. Councillor Morrison?
Thank you, Mayor Alcock and through. This is awesome intermunicipality work. I do love it. My question is, I just get a bit concerned with little tiny bits of money being added on, especially into the asset management plan. So my question is, how often in the last year or two have you needed a forcible entry device like this? Is it essential, or do we actually need it?
Through you, Mayor, to Councillor Morrison. So again, we recruit every year. So the recruits are required to be certified. This is a prop that is required for certification. And as you know, there's mandatory certification starting July 1st, 2026, moving forward. So the prop is used at least once a year with our brand new recruits. It would be available for other municipalities to use our training grounds. It may be an incentive for more municipalities to come in and use it. And we would use it for updating training to our own members. Maybe, I don't believe it would be once a year, but it might be once a year.
Follow up?
That explains a lot. Yeah. So it sounds like it's a mandatory part of our training, and having it on site is a big benefit.
That's correct.
Okay.
Deputy Mayor Arm.
Thank you, Chair. Through you, I'm okay at accepting it and, you know, waiving the fees for them. I'm okay with that. But I think we should probably just add this for consideration in the 27 budget for the capital asset and added funding to the maintenance for repair. I don't think we should be setting that up now because you put it in here that you want to add it now, right?
But yeah, through you, Mayor, that's correct. I just want to add to, and I know Deputy Chief Clay was talking about, you know, adding $500 to the operating budget. Again, these are guesses. This prop it takes a beating because you're using tools on it. Because we've never had one, the operating cost may be, you know, repainting it. There's a lot of wood that's required that you to purchase to put into the prop. So again, this is a guesstimate when we put our guesstimate into, because we don't have a background. We don't really have anybody to reach out to say how much, you know, what it costs you to operate.
So if I can clarify on that, Deputy Mayor Armour, it's saying including it in the draft, Mayor. It says draft. Yeah. So if I may not have enunciated very clearly, but it does say draft. So it's open for discussion, right? Okay. So that's triggered a whole side of questions over there. Councillor Renwick, followed by Councillor Moore.
Thank you for indulging on my question. But so we've never had one of these, Chief?
That through you, Mayor. No, Councillor Renner, we have not had one. Muskoka Lakes had one that is on a trailer. So when we did like joint district training, they would that day they would bring it over so that all of the Muskoka Lakes or all of the Muskoka municipalities would do their training on it, and then they would take it back. However, Muskoka Lakes has purchased maybe a bigger model, a better model, and they have generously donated it to us.
And finally, Councillor Morrison.
I guess that kind of begs the question if we could continue to use Muskoka Lakes for Muskoka-wide training going forward, if we need an $8,000 asset. But this question may have been answered over the last 4 years, but I'm just going to get for clarification for myself. When we increase maintenance budget by 500, then 500 up by 1,000, I guess I wonder how much of your maintenance budget is being used up, and if it isn't, if there's like $2,000 left over at the end of the year, I assume it just stays in reserves or it goes back in, just for clarification.
Would you like to answer that, sir?
Yeah, through you, Mayor, to Councillor Morrison. Absolutely. So if the operating budget, the maintenance not used up, it's not what we go out and look for something to spend it on. 100%, we would leave that line item alone. And again, it's hard to judge what it's going to be or cost. Sorry.
Okay, I think, Councillor Fitzgerald.
Thank you, Worship. And I had great questions around the council table this morning on this subject and report. I think we're forgetting one thing about the high cost of transportation and the time it takes to transport things. So I see minuscule numbers coming up that are going to end up being required training equipment and minimal costs to the reserve versus operating costs. So I just be careful how we offset things and incur possibly more costs. I know transportations are very high in my aspect of business when I'm moving equipment. For consideration.
Thank you for that point. Councillor Schumacher.
Thank you. Through you and Chief Monahan. Having this piece of equipment, I know we have talked about, other municipalities, not just Muskoka, but other municipalities using that training facility and garnering some revenue in that base. Will that, make this a little more enticing for those other communities to come and use our training grounds?
Yes, through you, Mayor, to Councillor Schumacher. So absolutely, I think the more the more we invest in the training grounds, the more it's appealing to other municipalities. I met with another municipality last Friday that is interested in using the live fire facility and any of the other props or the infrastructure that we have down there. So they are looking at bringing crews up in June to use the training grounds. But yes, the more we add, the more it makes it appealing to other municipalities.
So this can kind of offset sometimes the cost, or we can get some revenue as well for the more equipment we have.
That is correct, yes.
Okay. Thank you, everybody, for great questions and comments. I don't see any more, so I am actually calling the question. All those in favor? And that carries all the way around. Thank you, Chief. And you are staying in that hot seat. We are moving to the next report, number Fire-2026-4, aerial apparatus replacement. And I have a motion moved by Councillor Renwick, seconded by Councillor Schumacher. Whereas the fire department aerial apparatus is due for replacement in accordance with fire underwriter survey requirements by 2027. And the build time for an aerial apparatus can take up to 48 months. And whereas the aerial apparatus is included in the town's capital asset inventory in fair condition, and the replacement of the apparatus was included in the 2025 five-year capital forecast for replacement in 2027. And whereas fire department staff will be applying to the fire underwriter survey to request a short-term service life extension to allow for the build time without advancing the replacement date of the apparatus. Now, therefore, it is recommended that staff be authorized to begin the replacement process in 2026, including the development of preliminary cost estimates, and further that staff report back to committee on the findings, including refined cost estimates and funding options to inform the preparation of the draft 2027 capital budget. Chief.
Thank you, Mayor. I'm fully anticipating a number of questions on this, so I'm not going to. You have the report in front of you, and I'll just wait for the questions.
You'll just go right to
I'm
questions.
Right to the hot seat. Yes.
All right. Okay. Committee questions with respect to this. Deputy Mayor Armour.
Thanks, Chair. So there's no legislated Canadian standard for replacement of apparatus like this, correct?
Through you, Mayor. Yeah, to Councillor Armour. Yeah, that is correct. We're not. There's no mandatory legislated. We use best practice, industry standard. Yes.
I think the biggest, for me, the biggest thing is the actual adding it to the capital asset plan and the cost going ahead. You're already adding 400,000 to the levy. Is it an ongoing thing annually on the levy, or is it will be a one-time thing and then debenturing it over 30 years, but the truck's only going to last for 15 or 20 years? How does that all work? Maybe someone could help me with that one.
I see that the chief wants to put his mic on, but perhaps. Okay, all right. I think we're going over there to the chief.
Sorry, through you, Mayor. I was going to, financial questions, if it's okay, I want to
direct it to Director
Director
McKenzie.
McKenzie is what I was going to say.
McKenzie.
But we'll be here
There
to
we go.
answer
All
any
right.
questions.
Okay.
I was going to say, I think we need to move this chair here because I can't see when someone's looking, when somebody's looking for my help. So this one is a replacement of an existing, so it's not adding to the inventory. So this would be getting rid of the old one. We would surplus it. We would use those funds to offset any costs. And then we would have, however we're paying for it. So if we do decide to debenture it, then that would be added to the levy. In addition to what we would maybe need to increase our capital funding, because I think last time we went out, I looked it up, last time we bought one of these trucks, it was 880 that we debentured. So I'm not sure what the actual cost was, but that was the debenture amount. So it's quite a significant increase from 20 years ago. So did that answer your question, or was there, sorry?
Yep, sort of. But I understand the report there. So the 880 you said we debentured for this vehicle would have been, is it 15, 20 years ago?
It was,
so was it debentured over 30 years then? Are we still paying that debenture?
that one was actually debentured over 20 years. So that one was a 2027 debenture.
I did put in the report, or we did put in the report, just an illustration of what it would cost. So if we were looking at debenturing over 15 years, it'd be about 312,000 per year for debenture costs. And if it was 20 years, it'd be 255. But again, these are really preliminary numbers because we don't know how long it's going to last. We assume it's around 20 years. This one has actually lasted longer than 20 years, I believe. And we don't know the total amount either. So we need a little bit more information to bring back to you guys.
And essentially, if I'm correct, this report is granting the authority to allow the chief and the finance department to start exploring those numbers and the replacement costs and all of that, right? Director McKenzie.
Sorry, I just want to add, just in talking with the fire chief, we thought this was really important to bring forward because it is a significant expense that comes up every 20 years and it's coming due. So we just want to make sure that staff or that the committee was aware of this and that we are looking at options to bring back.
Okay, appreciate that. So I'm going to Councillor Renwick.
Thank you, Your Worship. Chief, is it a given that we have this aerial truck that we don't have a lot of really high-rise buildings here? How old is I guess my question is, we don't use this truck all the time. So if we're not using it as often as we could, why would the life expectancy not be longer than 20 years? And why could we not, I mean, the Fire Underwriters Survey, basically, they tell us, now my question is, why are we replacing a truck for $3-point-something million when the truck is still workable?
Great question. Yep.
Through you, Mayor, to Councillor Renwick, so it's a great question, and this is a question that all fire chiefs struggle with when it comes to replacing, because it's a industry best standard. So FUS does the grading of your town, and the insurance companies take that information from the fire underwriters that sets the grading for all the residents and all the commercial industry. So if we have a rating and and our apparatus are over 20 years old, the rating could decrease because FUS has set a number that says if your apparatus are over 20 years. Now, Director McKenzie and I have been talking with FUS. We can ask for an extension on the ladder truck if we can prove that we've maintained the apparatus, which means it's got the engineering studies, all the annual inspections, all that kind of stuff. So that is one of the requests that we can do, but the extension will only go for 5 years, and you can only do one apparatus, meaning I can't do a 5-year extension on all my apparatus. So that's why we mentioned about the extension, is that maybe we can ask for an extension on the ladder truck. However, you ask for an extension on a ladder, the costing of apparatus since the last 5 years have gone through the roof. So do we wait where it's going to cost more? That's a gamble. I don't know. But looking at the increase to the costing, we had in the capital, it was 1.5 4 years ago. Then next year we had to change it to 2, and then next year we had to change it to 2.5. It's just the costing is just going through the roof. So to answer your question, is FUS sets the grading, and the insurance companies go to FUS and ask them for the grading of the municipality. So we met with the FUS Mark last week, the deputy chief and I. So they're doing their inspection for Huntsville right now to look at the grading. And we haven't had a grading done in a long time. So they are looking at it. I can tell you that there's a report coming from FUS about our grading, and that they were, it was very positive because of what the fire prevention department is doing. We used to do request and complaint only. Well, the fire prevention team now does all the high-risk buildings. They inspect them yearly. That's what FUS wanted to hear. They wanted to hear about all the pre-planning that we're doing before on all of our buildings. Well, Grant and Steve have done over 650 pre-plans since our new software program. And that is another thing that has helped our grading as well. the tankers that we receive. We've got 2,500 gallon water tankers. That's going to increase. That's going to help our grading as well. But it's not. He could tell me that you're going to get a better grading. He's just saying that all this stuff that we've done over the last so many years is going to help our grading, which goes to the insurance companies.
And thank you for that. I do understand but we don't know specifically the questions that they're asking, other than you say they are asking questions like the height of buildings, but they're not looking specifically at our ladder apparatus. So I guess the question is, we have to trust FUS to come up with something that they're going to tell the insurance companies. If we can get an extension for 5-10 years on this truck, is that just going to extend the pain for us? Like in 10 years, we're still going to have to replace this? Or we don't use this truck that often. I cannot swallow the fact that we have to spend $3.5 million on a new truck.
So
We don't use it that often.
sorry, good questions, Councillor Renwick. However, the ladder truck, so currently right now we have 29 buildings over 3 stories. We have commercial. That ladder truck is not just used for high rise. That ladder truck is used for commercial industry. We used it at the Avon Graphics, for instance, and that was a commercial building. That ladder truck gets used more than you actually think. We use it at a normal structure fire because we need to gain the advantage of being over top of a building where we can access, pull the roof apart to get in there. So that ladder truck does get used more than what we think. It's a pumper as well. So it in the event that the frontline pumper is at another call or is that ladder truck has been used as a frontline pumper before. So it does get used. Yes.
Councillor Clark.
Thanks, Mayor Alcock. So I'd like to see us do the extension with the studies showing that the maintenance is, showing that the apparatus is up to standard. Revisit it next year or yearly after that to see where we are. That's what I'd like to see us do.
So I appreciate that. In essence, we'd be, I'm looking at the motion. Now, therefore, it is recommended that staff be authorized to begin the replacement process in 2026, including the development of preliminary cost estimates. You'd be removing that particular clause and keeping, and whereas FAR will be applying to request a short-term service life extension. That's that, keeping that one. I see that our acting CAO would like to jump in here.
Thank you. I just wanted to clarify because I might be confused as well, but I believe, and Chief, please correct me, the extension through the Fire Underwriter Services for a maximum of 5 years for that vehicle regardless. So we ask for the extension this year. They would only authorize that for 5 years.
Right.
And it can take 4 years to get a new vehicle. So it's really, it's a timing issue from that perspective that we need to start authorizing the replacement of it within that 5-year window. I think it's.
And no, that's absolutely good to clarify. Did you want to jump in there, Chief?
So thank you, Mayor. So for Councillor Clark, yes, the ladder truck could take up to 4 years. However, some manufacturers, and this is why we have to start doing some of the research, some manufacturers are building stock ladder trucks. So if we wanted to order a custom ladder truck that has different things, yes, it could take up to 4 years because we want one that's, has a different widget on it than a stock truck. So if we feel that a stock truck would suit the town of Huntsville, then they're building them all the time. We could have one in less than a year. However, if we wanted to build one custom to our municipality, then yes, it could take up to 4 years to purchase. And that's why we would like to start looking at putting a committee together to look at that, because it is a high cost, yes.
Appreciate all of that. I'm going back to you, Councillor Clark. Yep.
Thanks. I mean, I wouldn't have so much of a problem with the committee looking to investigate it. The issue I have is committing to anything right now. as far as monetary value.
And I think that's really the nub, that's the point, right? Because the way this is worded, how much are we committing to? Because I think there's some value in even, I think I heard Councillor Clark say, well, it buys us a year. And it's an important year because next year, first term of the next council, this could be considered in light of all of the other priorities as well. And so it's sort of a more comprehensive way of looking at the approval. So I kind of get that buying the year concept, even if that's all it is. And anyway, it is that question around what are we committing to here today?
Yes, and sorry, Mayor, just to make a final comment is the manufacturers don't take payment until the final. However, there are other options where, you know, if the municipality is in a position to pay for it up front, there's a large, massive, deduction to the cost. So there's so many different options here that that yes, I agree. We need to take some time and really put a plan together.
I am going to Councillor Morrison.
Thank you, Mayor Alcock. Through. Yeah, so obviously we don't ever want to mess around with fire safety. I don't think anybody at this table does. But with a number this big, I think we need to be careful. A couple of my thoughts, when I saw the number, I started doing some research and it's very uneducated. It's just what I'm finding online. And it sounds like there is potential in a rural municipality with low usage that these trucks can be used for up to 25 years and in rare circumstances 30 years. And there's a process of recertification through FUS, and they would have to investigate, make sure that it's okay. And I think if that's a possibility, because I'd imagine we have lower hours than say a city truck that would be using this truck, right? So I think if we're going to go down this road, I think it needs to be more than just start the process of finding out how much it would cost to buy a truck. I would like to see, can we get another, not just to 2027, but another 5 years to 2032? Because I imagine the truck is not in rough shape, and you say it's in fair condition, it's being used. So the other comment I would make when you talk about stock, we have a lot of pressures on our budget coming up. We have a Medill yard that needs work. We have a lot of stuff coming up. So I don't think I would be in favor of looking for fancy widgets or this and that. If it's a truck that gets us to height and lets us accomplish the mission, and it's $800,000 less, but it isn't perfect and custom built for us, I want that option looked at as well.
Okay, committee, I'm going to suggest a 5-minute break. Is that long enough for a bio break? Because we're just going to look at adjusting the wording in that paragraph. And maybe I missed half of what you said, Councillor Morrison, I apologize. But hopefully it will pick up a little bit of what we've been hearing. All right? Is that okay? It's 10:32, so let's say 10:40. It's an 8-minute break. Welcome back, everybody. We have a slightly revised version of the motion that I read earlier, and I would like to read that, and I'm just checking in with our deputy clerk. Is that a separate amendment? Yes. I have a motion to amend, which has been moved by Councillor Morrison, seconded by Councillor Renwick. And the motion to amend simply replaces the word in the second last paragraph where it says, now therefore it is recommended that staff be authorized to begin. The amendment would say to investigate the replacement process in 2026, including the development of preliminary cost estimates. And that's the only, oh, there it is on screen. So that would be the suggested change. Comments committee. Deputy Mayor Armour.
Thank you. Not so much on that. I'm approve that 100%. That's great. I'm just curious, maybe the chief can tell us, how many pieces of equipment do we have coming due, you think, in the next 3 to 4 to 5 years that we might want to be prepared for?
Through you, Mayor. Yes, we have next month. I'm bringing a report forward on to replace the Station 1 pumper, early replacement, and then the pumper in Port Sydney. It's 2010. It'll be due in 2030, if following the replacement program that has been put in place for years, for 20 years. Yes.
Important. Yes. Follow up.
Yep. Quickly again. I just wonder, are there ever any grants available for replacement of these pieces of apparatus, or is it just always bail as the municipality have to afford the whole price?
I am going to turn that question over to Director Mackenzie.
I haven't seen any for big fire apparatuses in the time I've been here, unfortunately.
All right. Any other questions with respect? Yes, Councillor Morrison.
Just on the amendment, I don't know if we need to include it, but I'd like to include some wording around the idea of seeing if it is, what the process or implications would be of getting a 5-year recertification done to get us to 2032. And also,
it's already in there. Sorry, Councillor Morrison, you hadn't finished.
But on the bottom says to initiate the replacement process. So I don't know if it needs to be right in that line or if it needs to be more specific right there, because the direction is basically initiate the replacement process.
It's actually, we're proposing to amend that to say investigate the replacement process.
Yeah, but it's just
So,
replacement.
but we
not-
also have above that the fire department staff will be applying to the fire underwriter survey to request a short-term service life extension to allow for the build time without advancing a replacement date of the apparatus.
Yeah, that's a different extension than what I'm talking about.
Oh,
though.
okay,
Yeah,
sorry.
so I'm talking about, that would give us an extension, but I'm talking about a full, a recertification of the truck. That would give us a 5-year extension, not a short-term extension, which would take us to 2032, not 2028.
Okay,
I don't
so
know.
then if staff be authorized to investigate the replacement process or other options in 2026? Is that?
Yeah, or other options, including a recertification, and because I think the chief would probably tell me I'm crazy because he knows more about it, but it's just from what I'm researching, there are municipalities of our size with low hours on these trucks that get 5-year and sometimes longer extensions, and then FUS certifies it, so our
Yep.
insurance is good. So that's
Yeah,
the
no, I
rationale
agree.
behind it.
I think that makes all the sense in the world to be investigating all of that. I'm going to ask the chief, will you respond to that? If what we're replacing to investigate, would that include all of that, or do you need us specifically to give you direction?
So through Mayor, so I think the question is,
About recertification of
Recertification.
existing.
Councillor Morrison was talking about recertification. I don't know if there is recertification. It's asking FUS for an extension. We recertify, the engineers come in and recertify the structural part with the ladder every 5 years. So the fleet manager has all the records, and that's what they're requesting from us now. We're still going through the inspection portion through FUS, and one of them is all the engineer reports on the ladder. So I don't, other than we recertify every 5 years with the, through, I think it's CSA, we, I don't think FUS has a recertification for the ladder truck. They're going off of the paperwork that we do. So we're mandated to recertify it every 5 years. So that's probably the only certification that we would be giving them. And I talked with fleet manager yesterday, and it's, I think we're due next year for our 5-year certification.
Yep, follow up?
Sorry.
Yeah, again, and I should have taken better notes the other night when I was up late looking into this, but it was specifically mentioning that there is a process if you want a 5-year extension through FUS. And it's not that they would be recertifying, that it would be a recertification that they would then accept if they're going to allow it to be extended to 2032. I'm talking is like getting to 2032, if possible, would be a big savings and a big help for the town.
Yeah, through you, Mayor, FUS, if we didn't have, if we weren't doing our 5-year inspection, if we weren't doing our annual inspections on the truck, they could come in and say, you know, you have no records that the, you know, that the ladder has been inspected by an engineer. They could say, I'm not offering you, I'm not going to extend the ladder. However, we have that, all those inspections, all the paperwork. So FUS can look at it and just say, we'll extend it based on the inspections that we've got by third party.
Okay, so I guess my point is I'm worried about the wording because it's most likely going to be a new council dealing with this. And nobody might even bring this up. So I think something in the report or something in the wording so the next council has that as one of the options specifically in there of trying to extend it to 2032 and what the implications are of extending it to 2032. Because that amount of money, if it can be extended, gives us more time to put money away into reserves and set us up. So the wording as it is now won't show the next council what was discussed here. As it is.
You're worried about that, and my take on this is, in fact, we're asking staff to do exactly that, to investigate. You don't feel that, okay? So maybe I should ask staff, what do you feel we're asking you to do with this motion? I'm looking to both Director McKenzie and to the chief to get your take on what we're asking you to do today. I'll start with you, Director McKenzie.
Okay. So the intention of this report is, as we mentioned, is to start investigating this and to bring back options for council's consideration, because it is going to be a significant request, whether it's done, you know, in 2027 or 2030. It's something that we want to recognize formally in our capital planning. And to think of strategies too on how we finance it, because it is going to have an impact to the community. With Fuse, my understanding is that we would be applying for the 5-year extension regardless. It's a one-time extension that Fuse would give us as long as we've given them the documentation. Then after that, Fuse has indicated that they would request that we replace it, and we can certainly go back to that after that time. But that was directly what they said, is that after 5 years, after that 5 years extension, that they would look to the municipality to replace it.
And Chief, may I ask you how you see this direction, what your takeaway is?
Right. So thank you, Mayor. So I guess, yes, we're looking to extend, so that would allow us 5 years. Maybe we don't have to investigate today. The report that's going to come from FUS, they actually give us a report on our grading and all that kind of stuff. I've been told that I could have it in July or August. Maybe sooner. So I agree with Director McKenzie. It was more of a, hey, this is coming. This is what's going to happen. So if we ask for an extension for 5 years, that buys us 5 years. However, if we look at purchasing a stock truck, which you could have in 1 year, then we move closer. Now, maybe in 2029 or 2030, we look at purchasing that. However, maybe they don't make stock trucks anymore, and now it's a 3 or 4 year build. So I guess it's a game that we have to manage it. We have to manage it over the next 3 or 4 years, I guess.
Okay, I appreciate both of your responses. And Deputy Mayor Armour.
Thank you, Chair. Through you, One thing we have to be is very cautious going forward because we just heard there's 2 other trucks on the slate over the next 5 to 6 years. This truck right now is stock trucks looking at 2.5 million, maybe 3, depending on what you do to it. That stock truck, if it's available or not available, might be 6 million in 5 years, 3 times the cost. So we got to be very careful and cautious. I think it's important right now that we get out there and find out what the cost actually is, bring back some real numbers to this table so we can actually see what it's going to cost going forward and not be pushing everything to 2030 and all of a sudden being caught.
Okay, we're going to go back to Councillor Morrison, then followed by Councillor Renwick.
Yeah, I just want to be clear. I'm not suggesting that we don't buy the truck till 2032. I'm just thinking that the next council needs as much information as possible to make the best decision for the taxpayer. And maybe it's just the wording that needs to change. When it says short-term extension, when we were discussing around this table, we discussed a short-term extension to be in 2028, 29. Right? So I think the wording of being short-term extension, maybe it changes to a potential extension to 2032. Because that would be what the 5 years would take us to, right?
Okay.
So I think being specific, because
So-
if a year from now it's a different fire chief and deputy chief, different mayor, different council, and they don't recall this, I think the wording, the importance of the specific wording is critical so that we make the best decision.
So I think that's, so to request a 5-year service life extension?
Yeah.
Or just request a service life extension? Do you want 5-year?
I think it needs to be very specific
Okay,
because we
fine.
don't know, I forget
Okay.
conversations 2 weeks from
I
now,
think
let
the
alone
important
2
part
years
is
from now.
removing the short term, because that part is a bit.
Yeah, being specific and making sure that everybody at the table, when they make this decision, has all the information they need. And the best decision most likely will be to go ahead and get the new truck. But at that time, the world might be different. We don't know. And then the other part is Chief Monahan and Helene and I were talking quickly. The difference between a custom truck and a stock truck could be $700,000 or more. So making sure that, and I think Chief Monahan would do it, that we're looking at stock and more than one company and all those other options.
Okay. So we're just, and I think Jessica's working on, did you just add something? Do you want to put that on the screen? I'll go to you, Councillor Renwick.
And thank you, Your Worship. Just briefly, Chief, you had just said too that we have been passing our inspections every 5 years, and we're due for another one next year. So if we pass that next inspection and Fuzz looks at that, would that not automatically give us another 5 years?
Through you, Mayor, to Councillor, I have to ask FUS, but I think Director McKenzie mentioned is that I think they only give up to 5 years from the time of replacement. So if that inspection wasn't due for another 2 or 3 years, and we got it, if we had the inspection by the engineers done and there's only 2 years left on that life, I think there's only 2 years left on that apparatus. It wouldn't. I don't think it would buy it another 5 years, but I can confirm with FUS, and I'll ask that question and I'll have it ready for when they do the report.
Okay. Jessica, would you mind putting, yeah, thank you. So the second part of this amendment is and whereas fire department staff will be applying to the fire underwriters survey to request a 5-year life extension to allow for the build time without advancing the replacement date of the apparatus. Does that meet your expectation? Yeah, Deputy Mayor Armour.
Sorry, Your Worship, to take this going. I'm just wondering, can you actually request that from FUD? Or do they actually give it to you, like when they do the report? Like, are we a little premature here? Maybe in August, they're going to come say, hey, Chief Monahan, be advised, your truck's good for another 5 years, man. Or he might say, 3 years, buddy, at the most. So I'm just curious, are we a little premature being here?
I'll speak and then and maybe Director McKenzie will, because I know she's done a little bit of research on it as well. But if we didn't notify FUS, nothing would happen. However, if something did happen and there was an investigation, something happened, they could come in and say, well, your aerial truck is 22 years old, and there's no engineer reports, all kind of stuff. So we're being proactive, bringing FUS in to say, yeah, we would like to, put an extension on this. What do you need from us? So maybe we change the grading, or we don't lose the grading. However, A, we don't want to lose our grading. B, we want our grading to be better by being proactive.
Okay, just to clarify to both our director and financial services, sorry, I'm forgetting this in a minute, and our acting CAO have both looked at, you're comfortable with this proposed wording? Okay, I just wanted to, Councillor Morrison.
Yeah, I'm sorry, maybe I'm not being clear. All I'm asking for is that it's part of the process. I'm not saying go apply for a 5-year extension. I think I mentioned I would like it to come back to this council with the option of a 5-year extension to 2032 and the implications of that, the buying of a new truck and the implications of that. So then the council then makes a decision whether they're going to try to even ask the chief to get an extension at that time.
Appreciate that, and I guess I'm being really stupid here. Because that's my interpretation of what this is. I look at this and think that's what we're doing. So I don't know where we're feeling differently about this. So maybe deputy CAO. I'm calling you all sorts of
It's all
things
good.
today.
As long as it's still me,
Yes,
it's fine.
it is.
I think the way that staff are approaching this is if we don't ask for the extension, then we would be in a worse position. Not to say that we will need an extension for 5 years. If in 2028, council decides, yes, we're replacing it and we got a deal on one that was already built or something, I think it's just to give us the opportunity to extend it for up to 5 years, regardless of when we're replacing it, just to be on the safe side and to make sure that there won't be any issues with fuss or fuzz or whatever they're called in the next couple of years while we're getting a new apparatus. Does that clarify?
So then it would just come back to this table at some point during that process.
It will absolutely come back.
Then
to
I'm
this
great with
table.
that. Yeah.
Okay. All right. That's great. I then, if you wouldn't mind, Deputy Clerk, putting that back up on the screen just to clarify that you may.
Councillor Renwick, can you just confirm you support the second part of the amendment? Okay, thank you.
Okay. Yes. Good. All right. So I am going to call the vote on, and just, I will. I know, sorry. Okay. I may have said Second Amendment, but I meant, I'm all flustered here. Call the vote on the proposed amendment, which includes 2 changes. The first one being to request a 5-year life extension to allow for the build time without advancing. And the second one replaces begin with investigate in the second last paragraph. So any questions or comments about that, committee? Seeing none, all those in favor of the amendment? And that carries. All those in favor of the original motion as amended? And that carries. Thank you, everybody, for a wonderful conversation about that. That was really great. And thank you, Chief, and Director Mackenzie, and Deputy CAO. Oh, very helpful. And with that, I am very pleased to turn over the chair to Deputy Mayor Armour to assume the chair for Development Services.
Hello, everyone. 6.4 Development Services. So 6.4.1, we have our Chief Building Official, Chris Nagy, and Corey Cruson here for our bylaw. So it's report number DEV 2026-47, Vehicle for Hire by bylaw amendments. And we have a motion that's moved by Councillor Morrison, second by Councillor Renwick. Whereas on March 25th, 2026, committee received a deputation from Y-Drive requesting changes to the vehicle for hire bylaw regarding the fee structure for ride shares. And whereas staff were directed to review the vehicle for hire bylaw and engage the solicitor to review the proposed changes. Now, therefore, it is recommended that the amendments for the vehicle for hire bylaw 2025-17 attached to Schedule A to report DEV 2026-47 be approved. And further, that the amendments to the fee and charges bylaw for the year 2027 attached to Schedule B to report DEV 2026-47 be approved. And further, that the final bylaw amendments to be forwarded to council for consideration. Gentlemen.
Thank you very much, Deputy Mayor, and thank you, committee, for having us. I do have some notes due to the contents of the report that I'd like to read over. The report being brought forward to you today is in response to the council's motion from March, the deputation received by Y-Drive and brokers within the industry. Staff have reviewed all recommendations and incorporated those that don't break the spirit of the bylaw. It should be noted that the recommendations brought forward have been reviewed by our solicitor to ensure staff's ability to encourage compliance through future enforcement. Through these updates, staff feel that they have captured concerns with respect to advertising without a license, scheduling concerns with ride shares, and user fee concerns voiced by the industry. Further, to ensure efficiencies within the department and that applications are reviewed in a timely manner, staff have also included definitions along with requirements to determine a complete application and how non-compliance by a broker will be dealt with. I wanted to dive into the user fees as it appears to be the most controversial item within the bylaw. Historically, the bylaw has always been structured to base the fees on the number of vehicles. Under an update as of last year, staff brought forward a scaled user fee, whereas if a broker didn't go over the number of vehicles over that year, no additional fees would be subject to the company. As indicated through the deputation, these fees did not work for all companies in the industry, and it was suggested that fees reflect staffing time should be implemented. The proposal today with implementation as of 2027 relates to the needs for a broker to have a complete application with all required drivers, vehicles, and property information being submitted by March 31st of each year. Failure to do so will result in a late penalty with other bylaws, such as the STR bylaw, which puts the onus of compliance on the license holder. Further, as there will be additional staff time throughout the year, should there be a vehicle or driver change, an additional user fee will be associated with these changes. From a municipal standpoint, staff feel that this approach enables all brokers to be subject to one initial fee not related on the number of cars or drivers, and bad actors in not submitting a complete application will be subject to additional review and therefore more staffing time. Further, throughout the year, staff will have tools to change additional fees should information change within the application. Staff would like to note, although this seems like the most balanced user fee for the industry, staff have received pushback in this change as which was similar arguments brought forward by Y-Drive, which is based on operational basis. Staff would also like to note that there are additional recommendations within the report from the industry. However, through lengthy discussion, these were not adopted based on either enforcement, inability to ensure confirmation, or the lack of exposure of liability to the town. That said, should these items or similar ones be brought forward through a provincial program, staff will bring an update to committee. Finally, staff would like to thank the industry for their comments, which helped create this bylaw, and we look forward to our annual discussions on the bylaw itself. With that, we're happy to answer any questions.
Mayor Alcock.
Thank you, Chair Armour. And thank you for the report. I recognize, so basically what is being proposed today, this is in response to the recent thing with Y-Drive, I get that. I'm still, so I think you stated up front, Chris, that it doesn't meet everybody's needs. Like we've adopted 50% of what we've been asked. Does it, for the most part, address what Y-Drive was asking for? And I know it's here, I need you to explain it to me one more time.
Yeah, exactly. Like, through you, Deputy Mayor. As I indicated, we did receive comments. Y-Drive was largely based on, if I'm being charged per vehicle, then everybody, or sorry, per driver, then everybody should be, right? So vice versa, as soon as these changes were shared with the industry, it was well, that's not fair for us, right? So what we're proposing today is on the initial application, it doesn't matter if you have 5 cars, 20 drivers, you have 20 drivers and 5 cars. It's going to be a flat initial application for all, right? So setting a baseline, and then there are penalties if the application is not received in time, which we do find, staff are continuously chasing brokers after the date of compliance, which is additional staff time. And then throughout the year, when there is a change, staff are going back into those files. They are continuously maintaining or reviewing the information in order to change the license, and therefore additional staff time, right? So it's really setting a level. We aren't considering business practice for the brokers and how they are arranging their business. We are looking at, on a basic level, what does it cost as far as staff time to get these licenses out? So.
Any other questions? Councillor Morrison.
Yeah, just a quick question, because it was the OneDrive that had come. Is there any further actions that you think are going to be needed moving forward? Is the first question. And the second one is, are we able to, in our bylaw, have a stipulation that you must service the entire town? I only say that because I've had a couple people reach out to me recently where they were trying to get a kid home once, and one of the companies wasn't willing to go out past, I think it was around Hoodstown Road, to get a kid into town. They just denied the ride. So I don't know, is that something we can do to say if you're going to operate, then you must service the whole town and not deny rides?
Thank you. Thank you for those questions. And through you, Deputy Mayor. Right now, our current bylaw is structured in that service must be provided 24 hours a day, 7 days a week. But it does not state within there any service within limitations to the area. The building, or sorry, the bylaw is silent in that. I think the spirit of the bylaw is if you are getting a license through the Huntsville, or you're getting a Huntsville taxi license, is you are providing service throughout that whole area. Corey, please jump in, but I don't believe that there's any wording specifically saying that you must service Huntsville directly, but that could be amended. So,
like to add to that, Corey?
Just to add on Chris's point, there one of the new sections is, or it's a revision of a current section, but vehicle for hire companies are to provide at least one vehicle 24 hours a day, 7 days a week, with a minimum of one or a maximum of 1 hour response time. But again, it doesn't necessarily say that the boundaries of the municipality.
Follow up, Councilor Morrison?
Yeah, I wonder if it's something we should consider, because I did get that call, and I'll be honest, there was a time this past summer where I was just trying to get a ride in because my car was in the shop from South Wasiosa, 12 minutes to town, and I was denied. So I think that's something I think might be worth exploring, so it's not selective of where you ride and who you pick up.
Any other questions? So basically, this is really just leveling the playing field for all cars for hire, taxis for hire, right?
yes. So to you, Deputy Mayor, you're absolutely right. As far as the user fee aspect, it's leveling the playing field. The structure of the bylaw, when it was initiated, was to implement restrictions for taxis and ride shares as an overall, right? It is not separated out into individual bylaws. So.
And just as a follow-up to Councilor Morrison's, is there any way that, or how would, I guess this one's for you, Corey, how would you enforce something like that? Because I know I've been working actually with the last couple tech cab companies in Huntsville the last few weeks about this stuff, and they said the same thing. They call for a cab at certain times and they say they're not available, you can't come. So I'm just wondering, how would you be able to, or how should we be contacting you to be able to enforce that? The 24-hour coverage.
Thank you, Deputy Mayor Armour. So what I have done in the past, because I have got those similar calls, is reach out to the business owner or the cab company or rideshare company and get them to provide me a proof to show that they did have a vehicle on. It just happened to be on another call and couldn't make it there at the time. But then when that call is cleared for that car, they would attend. It just time wise it wouldn't work out for the customer because it would have to wait longer.
Okay, as long as there's a process. Councillor Morrison, follow up?
Yeah, that brings up a good point, Deputy Mayor Armour, because how do you enforce something if you're not really aware of it and if it's not really in our bylaw? But I think in situations like that, Corey, if somebody tells me this again and they screenshotted the actual denial, to send that screenshot to you and then you could follow up, or is that appropriate?
Through you, Chair Armour. It is something that could be sent on to me there. And it's something we'd have to look through under the bylaw, maybe possibly add to the bylaw or see if there's any regulations around us actually being able to govern that. It's, I almost want to say it's if the business can't make it out to that area there, or isn't able to make it there, then I don't know if that's something that we can regulate.
I think it would be if you can't make it because you're tied up, that's one thing is you're busy, but if you say I can't even get there in the next 4 hours because you want to stay in a certain area, then that's what we should look into, but it might not be something we can even regulate, right?
Chris?
If I may add, Deputy Mayor, one of the proposals today is to add on to the section where you must be available 24 hours. It also adds on that you must be able to respond within an hour as well, right? So we are putting it back on the brokers to hopefully encourage potentially multiple vehicles over a night span, right? So
I guess it's just something we have to monitor. So if there's no other questions, I'll call the questions. All those in favor? And that's carried. Thanks, guys. And with that, I'll turn the chair over to Councillor Morrison.
Thank you, Deputy Mayor Armour. I think for the first time ever, we only have one report in our file. Director McKenzie is coming up to present 6.5.1. It is report number Corp 2026-36, the 2026 Q1 forecast report. And I do have a motion moved by Councillor Schumacher, seconded by Councillor Fitzgerald, the two boxes, and it is recommended that committee approve the 2026 budget deviations as outlined in Appendix B to Corp 2026-36. I'll pass it.
Great. So good morning. This report is to provide an early high-level overview of the town's 2026 financial position based on the Q1 results. The intent of this is to look high-level, some of the pressures that we do know at this time, and that's to provide committee with an update on these challenges and also because it's the second year of a multi-year budget. So this is why we're bringing a Q1 report forward at this time. So at this stage, we're projecting a preliminary year-end deficit of about 428,000, which represents about 1.4% of the overall operating budget. This is based on limited year-to-date information, so I just wanted to note that, and that it's definitely subject to change over the year. From an operational perspective, we see a few key pressures. On the revenue side, the loss of the Lake of Bays fire agreement revenue represents a significant change to fire services that will need to be addressed over this year and then in future years. We're also experienced a lower building permit revenues, and that's due to reduced development activity, along with lower than anticipated dividend from Lakeland Holdings. On the expenditure side, there's increased activity in roads, particularly with winter maintenance and street sweeping over last year and over the budget. There's also, as we all know, quite a bit of inflationary pressures just due to increased costing, which is increasing the cost of some of our contracted services. We also anticipate that there will be increased fuel prices, which hasn't been factored into this forecast, and we will be doing a more fulsome review of that for the Q2 and future forecasts. There are some mitigating factors that will help offset these pressures. We have an increase in OMPF funding, which staff are recommending to direct into general revenues rather than putting them into working capital. reserves, and higher than expected tax penalty revenue, as well as fire insurance recoveries. We also have some expected staff vacancies that we've factored in that are known at this time that will also offset existing pressures. The one item that we did want to highlight is the building department, as I mentioned before. So again, due to the recent reduced activity, the department is increasingly reliant on reserves for 2026, which is why the initial reserve was put in place. It was to factor in the highs and the lows of that department. We have had significant periods of highs, so this is now we're just going into a low period. So it is going to impact the projected reserve for year end to be just under 900,000. So this will require further review as we move through the year and look at some long-term strategies and forecasts of this reserve. From a service delivery perspective, there is a transition to a contracted cemetery model, which has been implemented, which will have a neutral impact on the tax levy, with staff resources being reallocated to support road operations. On the capital side, while there are some adjustments and timing changes, there's no overall impact to the levy, as variances are being managed through reserves, grants, and project deferrals. So you will see an overall increase in Schedule E of approximately 2 million. Of this, there's approximately 3.5 million of carry forwards from prior years, and about 1.5 of projects that have moved forward to 2027 or future years. So just looking ahead, staff will continue to monitor the financial performance and look for ways that we can mitigate this expected deficit and provide more detailed updates in Q2 and Q3.
Thank you, Director McKenzie. I'll go to Mayor Alcock first.
Thank you, Chair Morrison, and thank you, Julia, for the update. It is discouraging when you see the number, but a couple of comments and maybe comment questions, and that is, in the highlights, you obviously reference the fire services agreement, which stands out. And it's referenced the conclusion of the fire services agreement with the township, and it makes it sound like that's done. And we're still in discussions with Lake of Bays with respect to that. So my comment would be we're still in discussions with Lake of Bays around that. And so there still is room there for what that dollar value will be. And so we don't necessarily have to be, I know for the future, as you've pointed out, for future budgets, we absolutely have to identify a significant change there. But for, we're talking about year end, that number could be adjusted, and you're nodding. So I'm hoping that you're saying yes.
Through you. So absolutely, we'll continue to monitor that, and then any changes that we do have, we will be bringing forward to update the financials.
Okay, thank you. I have one more, if I may. And again, it's a similar comment around the building department, and none of us will be surprised. We've known for a while. But I would also say, as we continue to monitor, I would hope that our chief building official would agree with this. We do have some significant projects coming down the pipe, and I think hopefully that will send the curve back up, maybe not to where it was, but it will be significant. And I'm hoping that you're saying yes, that's true. Julia.
So I don't know that it's true, but I certainly hope for the same thing. And,
Hope that it's true.
We'll definitely be bringing back
I think it's
updates.
important to note that we do, in fact, it's not like all building has stalled. We do have some significant projects in the works, and I'm very hopeful that we'll start seeing some numbers come back.
Very non-committal, but hopeful, Director McKenzie. Deputy Mayor Armour.
Thanks, Chair Morrison. I don't think it's unusual to see a first quarter report come in with a deficit in it, for sure. There's probably still a lot of carryovers still taking place. So I am enthusiastic and think that the Q2 and Q3 are going to look way better than this one. But anyhow, keep up the great work.
Thank you. And obviously those hits that Director McKenzie mentioned are outside of our control. And I think the way you've managed it accordingly is to be applauded. Like, I think we're in better shape than we may have been. So I think that's good. And Mayor Alcock mentioned the housing. Our staff and council have taken a lot of steps this term to encourage more development with the accessory dwelling unit plans, all those things. So hopefully, along with all the other projects on the go, we'll see a big increase. Any questions from anybody else? I'll go to Councillor Clark.
Thanks, Councillor Morrison. Just a quick one. Just wondering what the approximate amount in the working funds reserve is at this time.
Thank you, and that's that can be found on Appendix B. So this is the first time we've done a Q1 report, but we're also putting the reserve, expected reserve balances in each of the reports now. So if you go right towards, sorry, not Appendix B. Sorry, I had it really handy enough. Sorry about that. My very last page here. Sorry, it's Appendix D. We're estimating that the working funds, it had an opening balance of 4.26 million, and we're expecting it to have an ending balance of 4.3 million.
That's a good question, Councillor Clark. It's good information. Any other questions? I don't see anything on the screen, so I will call the question. All those in favor? And that carries, and I will pass the chair back to Mayor Alcock.
Okay, thank you for that. And we are now to discussions around our deputations, and we in fact have some proposed wording for a motion with respect to the first deputation from Dan Watson from the Huntsville Festival of the Arts with respect to the exemption to the exotic pet bylaw. And if I could ask our clerk to put that up on the screen, please. And I need a mover and a seconder. Councillor Renwick, it will move, and seconder will be Councillor Fitzgerald. Just because he put his hand up very quickly. I'm still paying attention to you two, both of you. Okay, we're finding share screen. It's been lost, but we're finding it. Maybe. Don't put pressure on our deputy clerk. Here it is. Yay. I have a motion moved by Councillor Renwick, seconded by Councillor Fitzgerald, whereas on May 27th, 2026, committee received a deputation from Dan Watson from the Huntsville Art Society, the Festival of the, Huntsville Festival of the Arts. Okay. Thank you for that, Councillor Renwick, especially since you're moving it. That's important. Huntsville Festival of the Arts requesting an exemption from the exotic pet bylaw to host a theatrical magic dog show at the Algonquin Theatre in July 2026. Now, therefore, it is recommended that committee approve the exemption to the exotic pet bylaw 2019-135 and permit the Dogs Do Magic show to occur at the Algonquin Theatre on July 4th, 2026. Are there any questions with respect to that committee? Seeing none, all those in favor? And that carries unanimously. Yay. I might actually sign up and go to that one. That sounds like fun. All right, committee, you know what? We don't have any other follow-up business with respect to the other deputation, so I am going to move directly to adjournment because we do not have a closed and we don't have business arising from closed either. So I have a motion moved by Councillor Clark, seconded by Deputy Mayor Armour. It is recommended that we do now adjourn at 11:25 a.m. All those in favor, committee? And that carries unanimously. Thank you very much.